If you haven't noticed it, there's a strange thing that happens when somebody says tickets are going fast, or when a sale ends at midnight, or when a product is labeled limited edition. Even if the item wasn't on your shopping list a moment ago, all of a sudden the item starts to feel important, even urgent. There's a name for this. It's called the scarcity effect. This experience is, of course, not unique. You know the scenarios I've mentioned because you've heard them countless times before. Even more, not only is the phrasing recognizable, most of us have felt the internal pull that we should buy something simply because it might not be available later. We've bought things we didn't need, not because we actually needed them, but because we feared missing out. The scarcity effect is a psychological principle that occurs when people place a higher value on something that is limited in availability. The less available something becomes, or appears to become, the more we desire it, whether we actually need it or not. Now, on some level, this makes sense. Diamonds are more valuable than rocks because diamonds are not as abundant and more scarce. But these perceptions can result in unhealthy decision-making when the scarcity is entirely manufactured. This principle has been studied for decades. A classic experiment from 1975 included 2 jars of cookies. One jar held 10 cookies, while the other held only 2. And participants were asked to rate the cookies. Overwhelmingly, the cookies from the nearly empty jar were rated as more desirable and valuable, even though they were the exact same cookie. Scarcity increases perceived value, even if the value is no different. Now, marketers and retailers know this well, and so they create scarcity intentionally. Limited time offers, countdown timers, flash sales, exclusive collections, seasonal releases. No doubt you've seen them all over the internet and in brick and mortar stores. All of these tactics are designed to trigger the internal fear that if we don't act now, we'll miss out. I've been conducting business on the internet for nearly 2 decades, and I've seen countless articles and tips for internet entrepreneurs how to artificially create scarcity and urgency, encouraging people to take quick action buying their products. Have you seen a deadline for a product expire and then receive an email the following day that says, due to popular demand, we've decided to extend that offer? I can tell you 100% of the time that was a planned email to create artificial scarcity and compel you to buy. But so often we do act, often without thinking clearly about whether we actually need the item or not, or whether the scarcity is true or entirely manufactured. The scarcity effect pushes us to buy things out of fear, not purpose. It clouds our judgment and convinces us that something is more important than it really is. And in so doing, it creates negative effects on our lives. It empties our wallets and fills our homes with things we never needed. Now, it's one thing to be aware of the scarcity effect. It's another to overcome it, not just once, but as a lifestyle. But you can do it. In fact, we can all do it. So here are some helpful ways to resist the scarcity effect. Let me offer 5. Number 1, always pause before purchasing. When scarcity is used to create urgency, one of the most effective responses is simply to pause. Rarely is a purchase as urgent as the marketing claims it to be. If something is truly needed, it will still be needed tomorrow. So take 24 hours before making a decision. If the desire fades, so will the illusion of need. But what about the deadline, you might ask? Well, my mom summed it up really well when I was young. She said, if a salesman is putting pressure on you to buy because there's a pending deadline, it's almost never a good deal. Number 2, ask, would I want this if it wasn't limited? Strip away the scarcity messaging and ask honestly, would I still want this item if it were always available at this price? Or you can try this. Would I still want this if there were thousands of them sitting on the shelf in front of me? That question might help reveal whether the desire is genuine or is being artificially inflated. Number 3, recognize fear-based marketing for what it is. Most scarcity-based tactics are not there to help us, they're there to manipulate us. The more we recognize phrases like only 2 left or before it's gone forever as psychological tricks, the easier they become to ignore. Additionally, the more we recognize them around us, almost everywhere we look, the easier it becomes to decipher which are entirely manufactured to manipulate. Number 4, focus on long-term value, not short-term emotion. The scarcity effect thrives on impulse. Minimalism, on the other hand, thrives on intentionality. Long-term value should always outweigh short-term emotion. So one of the best questions to ask is, how will this item improve my life 1 year from now? Or, will this item help me accomplish my purpose in life, or just distract me from it? If the answer is unclear, it's probably not worth owning. And lastly, number 5, one more tip to overcome the scarcity effect in our lives is this. Remember, scarcity doesn't create worth, purpose does. You see, it's our tendency to believe that something is valuable just because it's rare. But minimalism invites us to rethink the perceived value of almost everything. Purpose is what brings value and fulfillment into our homes and lives, not scarcity, status, headlines, or hype. And an unneeded tool left on the shelf is more valuable than a trendy gadget collecting dust. The scarcity effect is a cognitive bias that often influences our behavior. It works because it appeals to a part of what makes us human. But that nature doesn't always serve us. And once we recognize that, we can begin to overcome it. And the more we overcome it, the more intentional our lives become.